Hello and welcome back. Today I have a video in Microsoft Excel. So once again, we'll just continue the previous lessons. Previously we worked some on tables and the graphs. So now we'll have the pivot table, making your first pivot table. So I'll click here on the pivot table tutorial. I'll click on create. So basically we will have some sheets here. Now we're coming to the start. So pivot table, normally we use it to summarize the data. So to summarize the data we are using a pivot table. Let's have a quick start. So let's go. Now coming to the first sheet, you can see here is the data provided, and here how the pivot table is made. To do this practically, what you will do, the data is provided here. So I have different dates, the buyer, the type, and the amount. So I will click here and I'll go to insert pivot table, and then I'll click OK. So the buyer, I'll bring it to the rows, and the amount I'll bring it to the values, and our pivot table is ready. So the data, the summary of the amount is given here. Depending on how the data is needed, we will need different type of pivot tables. So this is the one way, easy way to create a pivot table. Next we will come to the other data. You can see here the amount spent. Here the difference is that it is based on the amounts spent on the type of the things. To do so, what I will do here, I'll click on this again. I'll go to insert pivot table and I'll click OK. So this time type is the rows. I'll select the type, then the buyer is in the columns. I'll put the buyers, and then amount will be in the values. So you have the data in the same format. Later the format giving the dollar value and these things can be discussed in the pivot table itself when you will have it in the insert menu. So you can see on books $125 spent by Kelly, and on foods mom spent, on fuel mom spent, and similarly the data is here. So I have the total per category or per person as well, the spendings per person. So we will click on the next. Next we have the pivot charts, how we can create this. I'll click here again, insert a pivot table, and I'll click OK. So I will have the charts here. I will select the pivot chart and select it from here, but first I need to put the data. Let me put the buyer and the amount. Now I will create a pivot chart out of this. So I can select bars, I can select columns, can select area, any type of the graph can be selected. So you can see the spending per person. I can add, instead of this, I'll put the type. So on the one category I'll have the type, the money spent on, and another one I will have the amount, how much money spent per item. You can see it's also possible with the pivot table to be done easily and quickly. Next we have the data. So as you can see here, all the columns should be full. I cannot put the columns empty, the column headers especially. So you need to make sure that no duplicate rows that you have here. It should be all unique rows. Even if duplicate, different dates should be there. At the next step, we have the fields. You can see here, field number 1 date, field number 2 buyer, field number 3 type, and field number 4 is the amount. So the field at the end, this one, it will be summed. If I need to sum this one, next step, you can see it here. So it will be, if you want to get the sum of this, just click it. You can see here it's 834. So this is also possible through pivot table that you are getting it at the end. You can see here are all the steps. On the 9th one, again we have the adding, as we did it in the start of the video. On the practical of pivot table, you have the data here. You can see I have selected the rows as the buyer. Instead of buyer, what I'll put the type. Even I can add the date. If I want to add the date, I'll click it here. You can see the dates are also added. So I can even expand it here. These formattings, these can be done in the next videos. Just for the time limitation, I'll go through this quickly. On the 10th, as we did it, it's per type, how much money spent on the books, on the food, and the fuel. It's already given here. Can remove it and I can put it back. So it's pretty much easy. Next, we have the row field and the value field. As we click here, you can see here you have the rows and here you have the amount. Even you can do a filter. Let me put here the buyer as a filter, so I can filter it as well. If I don't want to filter, I'll just put it as a row, and even as a date I can put it here on the filter. I'll have the filter here because I have this label here, so it's hidden behind. You can see. I'll remove this and select any date. So I want to select January 1. Amount is spent by mom. I can clear it, or I can select 17 January. Again, it's $20 spent by dad. So we will have different things here. I can put a filter and I can remove a filter. Similarly, the date can be added as a column as well, as we did it previously as well. So I remove the month. You can see the spending per date is also given. Even we can create charts sometimes. I'll copy this and put it as a new sheet. So if I need to have the spending per person as a chart, so I'll click on insert, any recommended chart. You can see here the dates are given. I can select the total as well. You can see it will be different dates and different amounts spent. So this will be part of our next videos, where we need to do the formatting for tables. So we'll select different tables, different types, all the things. We can do it once we are going to other videos. So coming to 13. 13 shows the transition of data, putting it in the rows and the values in columns. On 14, I can drag it and drop it as values or as rows. On the 15, I can select sum if I need to take the sum of the values. Sometimes I need to take the average, sometimes I need to take the count. So all the steps are explained here. You can see, and you can create your pivot table easily and at your convenience. For example, here in this sheet what I have is the data given, and I need to put some date. I'll put the date in the column. Even I can remove the month, and then I'll put the buyer name, and I'll put the amount. Now when I click on the amount, I will get the automatically the sum. I can select different one as well. Let me take it as a count. You can see here is a count. I can select average because it's one value, so average will be the same value, there will be no difference. And maximum value, I can select the maximum value as well, minimum values. So you have all the settings here that you can select. So for the time being, what I will do, I will select the sum for learning purpose. So I will have the sum here. You can see the sum is here. Also, once you create a new pivot table, you will have a sheet number. You can see here I have created some pivot tables manually, so I have the sheet numbers. It's giving additional sheets. On the 20, we can have here another practice. So once I click here, you can see here step 1, click anywhere inside the data. I'll click here. Remember that step 4, this one, a new sheet will be created. So I will have, once I click here, I will have sheet number 5 because till 4 I have created. And then at the top of the Excel, insert, tab, and then the pivot table. Once I click here, I will select the pivot table and then click on OK. So insert pivot table and OK. Now I can do it as convenient for me and as I want it. So I want the buyer and the amount spent by the buyer. Once I click here, I will get it. So total is also given. Sometimes I need to add the date as well. When it was spent, I can put it here as well. So months I will remove. You can see spending on 1st January, 15 January, 17 January, 21 January, and 2nd Feb, 20 Feb, and 25th of Feb. So this is how we can create the pivot tables, and we will try to have some more videos here when we are studying the insert tab. Here we will have the recommended pivot tables, the pivot table, and the formats of that. Remember, when you are clicking in a pivot table data, you will have a new menu open, that's analyze and design. So this one can be also later discussed, and it will be part of our next videos. So this is how we can create a pivot table and summarize our data in seconds. Thank you for being with us. If any question you can ask, you can put it on the comments and the messages. I will be available to answer. Thank you.